Hello, and welcome. Now, I've spent my entire life as a historian and a diplomat. I studied the complex dance of international relations, negotiated treaties, and watched alliances form and break. But today, we're opening a highly classified, frankly chilling, declassified dossier. What we're about to explore is not science fiction. It's the strictly documented chronicle of the most profound transition in human history. Over the next few minutes, we're going to trace the tragic end of national sovereignty and the rise of a global algorithmic machine known as the Unified Planetary Administration. Let's examine the evidence.
Okay, let's dive into this file summary. We're going to track this chronological investigation through 6 key phases: the source code, the system overload, the new economic protocol, installing the firewall, the obsolescence of nations, and finally, the global operating system.
Section 1. The source code. Writing the algorithm of control in 2016.
Monumental systemic change usually starts with a single line of code. In our case, that code was written in January of 2016. It all began with a block domestic U.S. policy called the Family Responsibility Act. When Congress pushed back, the architects didn't retreat, they simply rewrote the program. This was the birth of the Vision Initiative, and the speed of this software deployment was terrifying. The January block was completely bypassed, and by April, Vision launched. It essentially tied basic human needs like free STEM education for lower-income families directly to reproductive consent. And when the UK resisted these policies, the US ruthlessly weaponized its intelligence to fracture a century-old alliance by June.
Just listen to this intercepted chat from June 28, 2016. We defer engagement for a year. The United Kingdom is a break for progress. As a former diplomat, reading this log is absolutely chilling. It highlights the terrifying cynicism of a diplomatic assassination. With a single cold keystroke, a crucial historic alliance was deleted just because it dared to question the algorithm.
Section 2. The system overload. Cascading global crises from 2020 to 2021. By 2020, the old geopolitical machine just couldn't handle the strain of these new protocols. We entered a catastrophic system overload marked by kinetic wars and just unimaginable human tragedy. The domino effect was unstoppable. In January 2020, Supreme Leader Khamenei was assassinated in Operation Nimrod, lighting a match in a powder keg. By May 2021, U.S. Tomahawk strikes degraded Iranian nuclear sites. And then, in July 2021, the unthinkable happened. Unprecedented U.S. nuclear attacks wiped out 6 Iranian targets. Hundreds of thousands of human lives were erased by algorithmic military decisions, triggering an irreversible global crash.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is these 3 lowercase words, "Let's do it." That's the actual intercepted command from the U.S. authorizing the assassination of a sovereign leader and setting the Middle East on fire. This terrifying brevity perfectly captures the sterile nature of the new technological hegemony. There's no debate, no diplomatic nuance, just a binary command waiting to be executed.
And here is the flesh and blood result of that command: 3,100,000. That's the staggering number of human beings requiring medical screening for radiation exposure across Turkmenistan and Pakistan following the July strikes. This wasn't a software glitch. These were real people, the devastating collateral damage of a strategic data deletion in the Persian Gulf.
Section 3. The new economic protocol. Programming the Riyadh Hub, 2022 to 2023.
Out of the radioactive ashes of the old world, the creators of Vision capitalized on the chaos. Realizing that military force wasn't enough, they installed a ruthless new economic operating system. Before securing the Middle East, they deployed the African dollar. This currency acted as a financial Trojan horse. By decoupling from the controversial demographic programs just enough to hit a 70% acceptance threshold, it quietly hard-coded entire continents into the Vision mainframe, systematically overriding traditional monetary sovereignty.
At this point, Vision International was no longer just a corporation. It was becoming the state apparatus itself. With the U.S. government holding a 51% stake, Vision's divisions literally formatted and replaced the ministries of independent nations. Defense was swapped for autonomous drones from Vision Defense Technologies. Health became Vision Health Systems. Intelligence agencies were swallowed by Vision Data Solutions. And education was outsourced to the global indoctrination network of Vision University. A single corporate entity was rewriting the globe.
$215. That was the peak price for a single barrel of oil during the 2021 crisis. This wasn't just an economic metric, it was a profound human tragedy.
that starved populations and crippled economies. But strategically, this unbearable pressure forced desperate nations to the negotiating table. It's exactly what allowed the U.S. to force Saudi Arabia into the petrodollar security agreement, permanently cementing Vizian's new global headquarters in Riyadh.
Section 4. Installing the Firewall, the Cipher Shield Deployment 2023 to 2025. And this brilliantly illustrates how, with the economic protocol in place, the system needed a digital perimeter. Resisting the New World Order was becoming technically impossible. The Cipher Shield wasn't just a defensive measure, it was a digital quarantine. This decryption grid neutralized Chinese and Russian electronic warfare, stripping rival nations of their defensive capabilities and hard-coding Allied utility infrastructure into a strict US-led monopoly.
The installation of this firewall was systematic. First, Operation Apex Talon used autonomous swarm intelligence to wipe out Russian and Chinese electronic assets. Then, when China threatened with its fleet, the US deployed a massive decryption strike. By August 2025, China was forced into a total national fortress state. The Silicon Curtain had fallen, a ruthless firewall permanently severing the Eastern Bloc from the global web. Section 5. Obsolescence of Nations. Deleting Sovereignty, 2025 to 2033.
As a diplomat, this is the part where you watch your life's work simply evaporate. Centuries of treaties and the very concept of the nation-state are overridden by algorithmic hegemony. Look at the tragedy of these milestones. In October 2026, France and Germany yielded their digital sovereignty to the Riyadh hub. In 2032, proud African foreign ministries dissolved into a single vision directorate. And in October 2033, the UK was completely reformatted into the North Atlantic Administrative District. Sovereign nations willingly surrendered their agency to become mere administrative nodes on a corporate server.
Look at this question from a diplomatic log on July 4, 2033. The Riyadh hub is ready. Do we extend the Silicon Consensus or initiate final lockout? This shows the cold binary reality of the new world. Diplomacy was dead. You either comply and sink your nation to the network, or your entire civilization is permanently locked out.
Section 6. Global Operating System. The Final Update, 2034 to 2036.
This is the point of no return. Human history, messy, unpredictable, driven by agency, ceases to exist. The machine's singular timeline begins with the Unified Planetary Registry. This wasn't a treaty. It was the ultimate architectural framework that literally criminalized non-participation. The independent nation-state became legally and technically obsolete. Human societies were transformed into optimized data points, managed exclusively by algorithms from the Riyadh War Council.
100%. Let that sink in. On February 15, 2036, total planetary coverage was achieved. Russia and China surrendered their nuclear keys. Strategic choke points were pacified by autonomous drone swarms. This number represents the total erasure of 4 centuries of Westphalian sovereignty. There were no more independent nations. There was only the network.
So the crucial point is this stark contrast. We traded the old world with its national sovereignty, hard-fought diplomatic treaties, and human agency for a new world. A world defined by algorithmic hegemony, the sterile efficiency of the Riyadh hub, and total corporate compliance. We swapped the imperfect, living diplomacy of the past for inescapable, mechanized management.
I want to leave you with this haunting question. Faced with this staggering loss of human autonomy, we have to ask ourselves, does the Unified Planetary Administration represent the ultimate tragic triumph of American hegemony, or is it something much darker, our final transformation into a completely post-human civilization? What did we truly lose when we surrendered our agency to the algorithm? Thank you for exploring this declassified file with me. Stay curious and never stop questioning the systems around you.